Hey guys, so this is my presentation on the research paper that we had to do. The topic I chose was gender bias in children's literature. My research question that I used was if gender bias and gender stereotypes in these children's books affected children's development. So the review I conducted was of studies that examined the prevalence of gender bias or stereotypes within top-selling, award-winning, and randomly selected children's books. I found 6 studies that revealed female traits and characteristics being represented not only in the overall book, but in titles, colors, pictures, and emotions. Even books that involve inanimate objects like Cars 3, things like that, showed that there was a stronger sense of masculinity. Each study was conducted differently, however, they all served a similar purpose. The results of the studies showed that the overrepresentation of masculinity has not been challenged or changed since the time that children's books have been introduced. The exposure of gender bias at such a young age has a clear effect on how we view men and women in today's society. Men are the strong go-getters, and women are supposed to be at home tending to the home and children. So many of the studies have shown that top-selling books, Caldecott Award books, and even random books on the shelves of stores are underrepresenting women or the female character in all sorts of ways. The female trait is underrepresented in titles, book covers, character prevalence, emotions, characters' roles and activities, and more. In the early 1970s, research on gender bias in children's literature emerged as a result of the women's movement. So, in the studies, they found that a lot of the books were like these 2 pictures I have here. Girls' books are very pink, purple, all about fairies, while boys' books have primary colors and the male is represented as a strong superhero. When searching for answers to a research question, 2 things stood out to me. 1, you want to be able to find valid information that answers your question. And 2, you want to be able to gain more information about your topic. So in searching for studies that would help me answer my question, finding valid information was essential. The keywords I used were gender bias, children's books, overrepresentation, and underrepresentation. The search engines that I used were the ERIC and Psychoinfo Thesaurus. The criteria that the articles had to have for me was that they had to be a primary research study, they had to include gender representation in children's books, and they had to pertain to the school age range of K through 5. So that is the age of between 5 and 11. To summarize the results of the articles I researched, they all concluded that there is an underrepresentation of female gender roles in children's books. Each article mentioned that the female and male characters are portrayed in traditional roles. For example, females are the nurturing homemakers, and males are strong and brave, and are more of the superhero, the man that fixes things like that. The article that Angela and Mark Gooden wrote they were the only ones to find females being represented more than males, slightly, in children's books within their study. In each of these articles, they all confirmed that male characters are represented much more frequently than female characters. They were portrayed as a strong, potent, and aggressive role, and they were illustrated as trucks, trains, and masculine cars for books that involved inanimate objects. Female characters were portrayed as the nurturing and loving role. These characters were illustrated in traditional female roles and were shown as objects of nature, such as trees, grass, clouds. The limitation I did find in my study was that there were quite just a few instances in which male and female characters were represented equally, and where the female character was slightly overrepresented, which was the research study performed by Angela and Mark Gooden. And that was a limitation because it contradicts my hypothesis. However, I felt that it was important to add because it is important for books to shy away from gender bias and represent the genders more equally. And out of 6 articles, only one showed that female characters beat out the male characters in representation. So, in conclusion, gender roles are the behaviors that society teaches that are correct for boys and correct for girls. As young children are developing their sex identity, they may be learning or adding to preconceived notions about their gender identity while reading picture books. One of the most critical parts of the learning experiences of young children is gender development. The actions of parents, teachers, and siblings often influence young children's perceptions. So, I feel like if we can change the books, we can change these views and notions that we are growing up into in today's society. So this was my literature review and my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.